Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
Well, it is time for another conversation with Excel's Leading Conversation podcast. And today we are very happy to have with us the stupendous, the amazing, the wonderful Jason Squires from Woodland, California. You still in Woodland?
I am. Absolutely. We're not far from you.
Yes, not far, just up the street. Are there woods there? Is that what it is? Is it
a lot of trees? They call it the city of trees. Woodland, the city of trees. So we do have a lot of trees.
I thought Sacramento was the city of trees.
Everybody's the city of trees. I think we stole it from somebody. It's just always Sacramento, the city of trees. Woodland, the city of trees. Elk Grove, the city that keeps growing. That's what we just keep.
And tell us like who you are and what you do. Jason, you're the worship leader, trainer extraordinaire.
Yeah, I've been leading worship for a long time, but not in your traditional sense. My wife and I have been on the road now for 19 years, leading worship all over the country. Our kids were born into it. I have a 9-year-old or twin 9-year-olds and a 12-year-old. And we all just get in the car and we go. And it just depends on where we are on the weekend. But in that, just fell in love with the idea of training and working with worship teams. And a couple years ago, we started an organization called the Creative Launch, where we specifically help creatives that need the tools to thrive through coaching and the podcast and one-on-one on live events. And so it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to get to do this and call it work.
Good. Well, hey, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Tell us about your upbringing, how you came to Christ.
Yeah, I grew up in a home where, going to church wasn't really an option. It was just on Sunday mornings, you were in church. You just got up, you went to church, you did your thing. It was just every weekend. Wednesday nights, kind of that whole story that people have heard about going to church. And I, second grade, I was at a 4-hymn concert, and Andy was on. Andy and Mark and Marty and Kirk on stage. And I say that because I say their names because what I do now, they've actually all become friends of mine. And I've told them this story, which has been really fun.
Are we talking about a 5-hymn up here?
5-hymn. That's right. That's right. They had an altar call at their concert in 1993, and I accepted Christ, and which was and then it wasn't really until college that it, I think, became more personal to me, more of a taking ownership of what it means to be a Christian. Went to a private Christian elementary, middle school, high school, and so you kind of grow up with everything around you is church, and then once you move out, you're like, oh, I have to choose to go to church. I have to choose to continue to do this. And so in college, I really kind of took ownership over it. And the fun part about the 4-hymn story is I got to do an event with Andy in this past fall. And I was telling him the story about the early 90s, and he remembered the tour because they had a bus accident on the way to that show. And so he was like, it was October-ish. He went home and found a tour poster and sent it to me. And when he sent me the poster, it was 30 years to the day that I had accepted Christ. And we just happened to cross paths the same week, 30 years to the day. And so it was kind of a fun space to that. But
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
did you go to college?
I went to William Jessup University in Rockland, California. And I started at Simpson. When I was in high school, I had always wanted to be a youth pastor. I'd always kind of was like, that was my dream. Like I had a great youth group experience, and I was like, man, I would love to be a youth pastor. And so I went to Simpson University as a youth major, and my girlfriend, who's now my wife, we both went up there together. And it was my freshman year of college where I was like, we were sitting down one day and I was telling her, man, I'm so excited about youth band and youth choir, leading youth worship nights. And she basically said, you're an idiot. It was like, you're in the wrong major. This is not the right space for you. I think maybe you should be a worship leader. And I was like, but I've always wanted to be a youth pastor. And she's like, but the only thing you're excited about is leading worship with the youth. And so what is that, kind of, as I kind of processed through that, my sophomore year, I changed schools and changed majors and went to Jessup, and they had a great worship program, and then graduated from there with a worship degree and a Bible and theology degree, and now I get to do what I do and call it work and just be excited about it. It's fun.
Now, you kind of alluded to it, but talk about your call.
Yeah.
Sounds like, I mean, you wanted to do the youth thing. Was that part of your call? And you talked a little bit about your wife saying quite accurately, "Hey, this seems to be your passion." But did you have a specific call to ministry?
Yeah, it just love I've always loved serving people, and like being in a space where like I get to work with people and love that space. And in that that's kind of, I think, where the youth ministry um desire was. It was just like I love working with people, and I've had a great experience here, so I should continue this and become a youth pastor and do the things that I love doing over here. And then I when I was in high school, had a great I started leading worship in my youth as a youth in high school. And I had a great guy that was kind of my mentor as a young worship leader, and he and I would always co-lead. He was one of the leaders in the youth group, and then also a teacher at the school I went to. And he and I would always co-lead. And one day he called me. It was the early morning before chapel, and just said, "Hey, I'm sick and I can't make it today. You're actually going to be the one to lead chapel." So the first time I'd ever actually led worship by myself. And I get up on stage, and I'm so nervous, and I go to lead, and he actually walks in the back of the room. And after chapel found out he wasn't really sick. He just used it as an excuse to get me to get me to be doing what I'm doing. And I fell in love with the fact that we get to lead people to Jesus. And like as a through music, I get to point people to Jesus. And there's all these professions you can go into, and all these things that you can do. But man, if I get to do this thing and like continue on with it, there's no greater space in my mind to go, man, I get to lead people to Jesus. And where I think my call, like a call of ministry came in, was kind of in that story and in that space, going, if I can do this, if I get to do this and lead people, then like I don't know that there's a better option. And I don't know like what else is there in this space. And it's like I said, I just fell in love with it. And over time, the love continued to grow and putting me where I am today. 19 years of getting to work with so many people and getting to train them. And I think for me too, one of my where the training side comes in the worship leading world is I love seeing the light bulb turn on for worship leaders and young worship leaders, because I had that person in my life who said, like, who wanted to push me into a place where I could continue doing what I'm doing. When I get to do that for somebody else, it's just, I mean, there's no greater joy. And so I'm gonna keep doing it because I love seeing it and I love doing it.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Hey, I think we first came in contact, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I believe we were looking for a worship guy, and I think I've talked to maybe a dozen local pastors who are like, yeah, we'd really like Jason to be our worship guy. Yeah. And you don't do that. You're like itinerant. You're travel around.
Yep.
Why is it? Did you have a bad experience or?
That's a that's a great question. That's a great question. So, I mean, again, when I was in college, I started working at the church, this church. I was a junior at Jessup, and had a guy come in to our choir class, looking for a worship leader, and I was like, I could do this, right? So I started leading worship at their church. My wife became the children's director, and one day at lunch, we sat down, and she said, I feel stuck. Like, I feel stuck. Like, there's something more that we're supposed to be doing. And I said, I'm kind of feeling that same way. Yes, worship ministry is where we're supposed to be, but like, we don't know at that time, didn't have the words for it or the verbiage for it. It was like, there's more to this, right? Than like just being at one church, which some, like, there are people that are built for that. But she and I said, what does this look like? So we started exploring what that could be, where that prompting and what that was looking like. And right about the same time, a friend of mine approached me about this idea of traveling. And I'm like, how in the world do you do that? I'm like, I don't understand what that means. And he was on the road as a full-time itinerant worship leader. And so that would have been about mid to early 2000s. And in Sacramento, about that time, you would know this and probably remember this. There was a church planting boom where there was a season where a lot of churches were being planted in and around Sacramento, and they were planting without a worship leader. They would plant with the lead pastor, and maybe somebody would come in and volunteer. They didn't have the full team, and so I started filling in on a kind of a rotating basis with several churches. Like, hey, I'll be here the first week of the month, and then I kind of set up my schedule that way. And I fell in love with it. Like, it just, I fell in love with coming in and getting to work with somebody and be a part of their Sunday morning experience, and leaving behind more than was like, I was leaving behind more, coming in going, hey, can I help kind of walk through some things? At that point, those churches were in their infancy, and so, like, setting up and all the stuff that comes with a church plant that maybe they hadn't thought about. And it was like, oh, I'm using past experiences to help this church be successful. And then next week, I'm doing the same thing with helping this church be successful. And 19 years later, numerous times we've tried to get off the road, where we've like taken a job at a church, and it's like the claw in Toy Story. The claw comes over, and it's like the claw, it chooses who will go and who will stay. As it comes down, and we always use that as an example. It's like, that's what we feel like God does to us. Every time we get off the road, he picks us up and drops us back on the road and goes, I told you the road is where you're supposed to be. Like, God, but it's so much prettier over there. You have a guaranteed paycheck, because as an itinerant worship leader, I basically work on commission. So I only get paid when I work. And so there's not guaranteed income ever. And so it's like, as a provider in my family, I would go, man, I really would love to just know that we were going to be taken care of. And looking back at our last several years, there have been so many instances where, like, I didn't think it was going to work, and God was like, I told you, here's the need, here it's covered. I just keep doing what you're doing. And the other part of this scenario is, if I was not married to my wife, I wouldn't be doing this, because she's so much of an advocate for us to get to go and be a part of this kind of road life. And we do it as a family. So it's not, I'm not gone for weeks on end. If I'm gone, my family's with me, and we're kind of traveling and doing ministry as the five of us.
That's that's a very interesting story. That's I guess it makes some sense. I didn't realize that your wife was so much into the traveling because
Yes. It's
uh
funny, as a kid, she grew up with a musician dad and a travel agent mom. And so she grew up around music and traveling. And so she's like, this is just the way this makes complete sense to me. Like, we are on the road as musicians and leading worship at at churches. And so like I said, I've tried so many times, and she always asks me the question when I go, I think it's time to get off the road. She'll say, do you think it's time to get off the road, or do you think it's time, or are you more concerned about that kind of guaranteed income? Like, what is driving the need? What is driving the desire to get off the road? And it's always, I'm tired, or I'm um I don't, almost like I can almost always feel myself going, like, it's so stressful to not know if we're going to be taken care of, or we're going to like it's going to work as the provider, as the husband, and as the father. And then she'll remind me, look back at our history. When weren't we provided for? And it's like, you're right. We have never not been provided for in the 19 years. Um and so it's just, this is not for everybody. I always tell people, a lot of guys I've talked to, they end up like having the bad experience at the church and going, it must be so much easier to be on the road. I'm gonna try to get on the road and do what you do. It's like, you can't just jump and do it and go. You have to have that calling and that space to go, this is what makes sense and what's good for my family, and God wants me to be doing this.
let me ask you this, and I didn't prep you on this,
You're
but
good.
you talked about church planting and you're training church worship leaders, but there's a saying in church planting, and I might be spilling the beans by actually saying it on a podcast, but there's a saying that when it comes to problems in a church plant, it's always the worship guy. Um, the when we go around the room, we say, "Hey, what's going great? What's not going great?" And invariably, somebody will talk about the worship war or whatever, and then somebody else will say, it's always the worship guy.
Yeah.
It's the old,
Yes.
when Satan fell, he fell into the choir loft. I think he just bounced from there into the financial committee, personally. But respond to it's always the worship guy.
Yes. I love this question because one of the reasons we got into opening up this organization called the Creative Launch is that creatives, which worship leaders, they're another word for them is creative. And creatives do life differently. We just kind of operate in our own world, kind of run not we don't work in a 9 to 5 kind of scenario. A lot of times can be dubbed lazy or irresponsible because of art. Art feels like more important than actually the organization side. When you think about a worship leaders have to be administratively gifted and creatively gifted and musically gifted and have the calling to be a worship leader and be able to manage people. Like, all of the things that come into being a worship leader, they actually are in direct conflict with each other, because to be a worship leader, I'm supposed to be good at organization, good at creating. And those two things, they don't work together. Like, they
Sure.
don't, it's rare that you find somebody who is on both sides of that, because you have to use both sides of your brain. And the thing about this is going to feel real stereotypical, but the thing about the rest of the staff is that most of them are organizationally gifted, and so it's more like good at leading people. There's big picture planning, those kind of things, and that's not the goal. That's not the worship leader's strength. And so what happens is, instead of addressing it, a lot of guys, it just comes in conflict, where you start kind of building up, and things get swept under the rug, and over the course of time, you don't even realize that you're frustrated with your worship leader. You don't realize you're frustrated with your lead pastor. And that's not on, it's on both sides. It's not one side or the other. Worship leader is going, my lead pastor is so hard to work with because, he wants me to be, this organization, and he wants this to happen, and, to forecast this, and, plan a budget and all these kind of things. And none of that makes sense to a true creative. And so, one of the biggest things I do now, is actually help facilitate this conversation between worship leaders and between like the rest of the staff, and kind of helping to go. There are many ways to kind of help facilitate that in staff meetings and all of those things. But the biggest, it all comes down to communication. It all comes down to not letting the small frustrations build up, and just dialoguing about them, going, hey, I really need you to X, Y, and Z. Or there's one church that I've been helping out with that they did not have anybody that was administratively gifted in and amongst this and their team. And so they stood up on stage one Sunday and said, hey, one of the biggest stressors right now is planning center. Like, we need is there anybody who would be really good at helping us kind of organize volunteers and organize schedules and scheduling people and kind of maintaining the database? This guy came up after the service and said he was now retired, and his job, that's what he did as a full-time job. He helped organize a business with the software and all of the things. And he went, I didn't know where I fit in to serve, but I can serve here. Like, I would absolutely love to help kind of oversee this space, and took that off the brain. And it's like, all of those things are happening, but if you just have to look at it and go, we need to operate within our strengths, as a team, but also communicate and make sure that we're not building up tension over time, because where that stressor is, how do we answer that question? And in this case, for this church, it was looking for somebody to kind of help oversee the admin side. We took that off, and now all of a sudden everything's flowing, and the stress amongst the team kind of lifted.
Now, do you consider yourself a musician with an admin bent?
Yes, I grew up in a business driven home. My dad was self-employed, and it was always about business. And we always, as kids, had paper routes and all those small business things. We used to sell mistletoe at Christmas in our neighborhood. We were always doing something.
Of course you did. Yeah. That's if I had $1 for every mistletoe salesman that, knocked on my door, that sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, but we did it in, like, as kids, and it was so I kind of grew up in that space. So running a business and kind of doing all those things is, I'm able to operate on both sides of my brain. Like, I have the creative brain and I have the business brain, and they are often at odds with each other. And so I think that's why I'm able to speak into these kind of things. And I've, over time, if I feed one or the other, and it's like, I can tell I've been doing more on the creative side or doing more on the business side. But the creative side, I would say, if I don't spend time on the creative side, I personally become physically drained. if I spend too much time on the business side, because that's not necessarily my strongest suit. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for tackling that question. I think the whole communication thing is good. I think it helps too when, a pastor, a preacher, there tends to be a creative side to that too for most of the good preachers. I mean, there's a creative thing to how do I present this in a way that's gonna be different, not just the trained monkey stuff. But hey, I know you're getting ready to go on the road here. Tell us a
yep.
little bit about the trip.
Yeah, we are heading cross country, and this will be our third cross country tour. Kind of we're going from we're in California, and we're going across the middle of the country down into Oklahoma, Arkansas, up into Nashville area. Gonna spend some time there for a few days. Go up into Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Montana, North Dakota, Idaho. We'll be gone about 4.5 weeks, um, yeah, we leading worship at churches, doing some conferences, and some
How old are your
workshops.
kids? How old are your kids?
My oldest is 12, and the twins are 9. So
Okay, that sounds doable. And what type of vehicle are you taking on this?
yes, we have a Honda Odyssey minivan, and
Okay.
it's been we just got it's brand new. We got it last year. We had one that broke down 3 times in 6 months, so it was time to get rid of that one. And then so we got this new van, and it's great. I mean, we've done up and down the West Coast this summer. We did cross country or up and down this year, cross country last summer. And so it's been great.
You're still in the minivan stage. You have about 5 years left of that.
I don't
Where
know. I may have a minivan after my kids. I like it. I don't know. I'm an odd person. I got one and was like, this thing's amazing. I don't know what the problem is. People always get talked down to them, but everybody we got it and everyone's like, oh, your wife got a new car. I was like, actually, the minivan is mine. She has a CRV, and so she's like, I don't want the van. Like, I'll take the van. I don't mind the van.
that's just the odd creative musician part of you. At some point, hopefully you'll come to your senses. But see, you got equipment to take as well.
It's
Hey,
got a lot of storage space. Yeah.
yes, let me just leave you with this. Well, two things. How if somebody wants you to come and train their worship leader or do a gig at their church, how do they get a hold of the Jason Squires?
The Jason Squires. My website is jsmusic.net. All my contact info is there. There's a form. There's like a form you can fill out if you want to request a date, or a certain thing. My email is jason@jsmusic.net. And just shoot me an email. I would love to chat and start that conversation. Like I said, we do this full time, so unless I'm booked, I'm available, and I would love to come be a part of whatever you're doing, and just to be out. And then also I also have a podcast for worship leaders, and it's called The Table, and that is on Instagram at Worship Leader Podcast, or if you go to any streaming platform and search The Table Creative or The Table Worship Leader and click on the coffee cup, you'll be able to get that. And that podcast is geared towards worship leaders, just to be better at what you do.
I know at the end of that podcast, it's called The Table, and you ask people like, what are they eating? Let me
Yes.
ask you that question. What are you cooking? What are you eating?
Oh man, I love this question. Yeah, every podcast we end with the food question. And so I'm a lover of smoked meat, and the barbecue. Anything I can cook outside is just I'm game. So we just did a fresh batch of smoked salsa a couple days ago, and we smoked the tomatoes and the onions and the jalapenos, and then we blend it. I blend it with the cilantro and some seasonings. And my kids now don't like any other salsa, so anywhere we go, they're like, "Dad, it just tastes like tomatoes. This is not your salsa is so much better." And I'm like, I know, but between
Well,
that
you mentioned
or,
smoked meats. And since we're in the segment, what's the best barbecue joint in Sacramento.
Oh, in Sacramento?
And then we'll hit them up for a little bit of support here.
Oh yes, I love Buckhorn, like the Buckhorn Grill.
Buckhorn.
They
Okay.
have their main store, their main restaurant in Winters. That's the Buckhorn. It's the fancy sit down type of place, and then they have their strip mall stores, Buckhorn Grill and Buckhorn Barbecue, and you can't go wrong at any of the food there. And it's just like the onion straws and the mashed potatoes and all of that stuff. It's just so good. It's so good.
We're gonna need to end this because I'm getting hungry. I didn't know up in Winters they have a full-on restaurant. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Hey, last question,
Yep.
leadership tip.
Leadership tip. This is one I kind of alluded to it a minute ago, and one of the things I always stress in all my conversations is how important communication is, and how important it is to dialogue with your team. And whether you are the leader, your lead pastor, the worship pastor over at your team, one of the things that breaks down a team is unspoken expectations, where it's like, I don't actually know what you're thinking. I don't know what you mean when you say that. And so, for instance, what I mean by that is with the worship pastors, a lot of times we'll go, hey, rehearsals at 8 a.m. before church on Sunday. Well, does that mean we start music at 8 a.m.? Does that mean you want me there at 8 a.m.? Does that mean, what does that mean? And so, like, defining that to go, hey, we're starting music at 8 a.m. If you need to get here at 7:30 to be prepared by 8 a.m., then, plan accordingly. And making sure that, because what ends up happening is when people start showing up at 8, not ready till 8:15, you start getting this tension in the room, like, why am I feeling stressed? Why am I feeling like we're behind? Well, because in your mind, you wanted to start at 8, not be ready to go, or not arrive at 8. And so making sure that when you're communicating with your team, everything is clear and everything is defined, and the world's just a better place when you say what you mean. And so that would be my biggest tip for people. And it seems you're like, of course, say what you mean. It's not, we don't always do that. And we think what we're saying is being communicated, and it's not always.
Great stuff. That's a really good tip. We spend way too much time assuming. So,
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, I appreciate you. Believe in you. I just pray you have a phenomenal trip.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being on. Thanks for doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And we'll continue to be in touch. So thanks for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Christian Community Credit Union is America's leader in biblical banking solutions. As a trusted ministry partner of Excel Leadership Network, they are dedicated to serving ministries in all life stages of growth. Whether you're planting a new church or expanding, Christian Community Credit Union will come alongside your ministry to help you grow so you can serve more. They offer low-rate ministry loans as well as products to maximize your ministry's money, including high-interest checking, savings, and CDs. Take the next step and learn more at mycccu.com/excel. That's mycccu.com/excel. Membership eligibility is required. Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.